Okay, now let's address one problem that we have with our jumping. And first of all, I will show you. So when we press play, yeah, we are able to jump, but if I spam my spacebar, we are jumping in the air as well. And that's not what we want. We want to be able to jump only once and fall down. So let's first of all think how we can handle this mechanic. It's obvious that we need something, some mechanic to detect collision interaction with our player and with our ground. Now, there is few things that we should do. First of all, what we can do, we can create some kind of indicator, some kind of sensor that we will place at the feet of our player. And obviously our players won't be able to see that sensor. It will be hidden sensor. It will be in our project, but it will not be seen in the game view. And well, when that sensor will touch this ground that we are standing on, we will know that, yeah, we are on the ground, so we should be able to jump if we are touching our spacebar. But when we will be in the air, our sensor will detect that nope, we are not touching our ground, so we should not be able to jump. I hope it makes sense. Now, there's few things that we should do. First of all, let's create sensor, and for the sensor what we can do, we can create empty game object for our player. Now empty game object is just game object which only has transform component. It means that it only exists in the world, but it will not be seen in the game view. Now how to do it? Let's right click on the soldier, and here we will see create empty. Let's click on it, and let's call this one ground check, simply. And as I said, we will place it at the feet of our player. Just like this. Just make sure to place it in the middle of our feet. Just like this will be fine. Okay. Also, in order to detect collision with the ground, we should work on ground layer. Now, what is layer? Let's select ground. Here in the inspector, we have tag system and layer system. Now, they are just like categories. We can create different categories and assign those categories to specific game objects. For example, we can create category for the ground, assign it to the ground, and then use it in our script. For example, let's select ground, and here let's click on this drop down in the layer. By default, Unity has few layers, but we don't need them. Well, actually, I already created ground layer, but I will delete it for a moment. And basically what we can do, we can click on this add layer. And here in the empty field, let's call this one ground with a capital first letter. Now let's select ground game object and let's assign our ground layer here. It's very important, so do it carefully. So now that our ground game object has this layer, we have everything. We have ground check, we have layer. So now let's open our player movements, player controller script, and let's continue working. First of all, what we need here? Well, we will need few variables. We will need reference for our ground check. So for that, we will say public transform. We are using transform type because this empty game object of ground check has this transform component, as you see. And anyway, we only care about its location in the world, so we can use transform. And let's call this one ground check, simply. Also, we will need one reference for our radius, and I will explain you what is radius. So public float, let's call this one ground check radius. And by default, let's make it something small like 0.2f. And also we will need reference for our layer. So public layer mask, let's call this one ground layer. Also, we will need one boolean. Boolean is type that returns true or false, and it's very good when you work in those types of mechanic when you want to check something. So we will say private bool, and let's call this one is grounded. That's pretty much it. Now, idea will be to, from this ground check empty game object, we will have some hidden sphere with one of the methods that I will show you. And this hidden sphere will be acting like sensor, our main sensor, to detect collision with our ground layer. Now, to do that, what we will do in the update, first thing that we will do, we will say here, our boolean, which is grounded, equals, and we can use special method, which is physics dot check sphere. And well, this check sphere needs few parameters in order to work. It needs ground check position, so we will say ground check dot position. Also, it needs some radius, so we will say ground check radius, comma. And also, it needs to have some layer, so we will say ground layer. Now, everything is assigned on this boolean is grounded. Only thing that is left here, when we are touching jump key, we will add one more statement. First of all, let's type this sign. By the way, this is end sign, and we will use it later as well. So we are just adding one statement, and we will say here is grounded. Why? What it means? Well, we are just saying that we should be able to jump when we are touching our jump key and our is grounded is true. Now, our is grounded will only be true when we will be on the ground, when our ground check will touch ground layer. When we will be in the air, we still can touch our spacebar, right? So this left side will still be true, but we will not be on the ground, so this will be false. And it means that we will not be jumping at all. Now, just for the visual representation and to show you what is this sphere at all, I will write one more function. You should not write it at all. I just want to show you how it's working. So I will create one function. Its name is onDrawGizmosSelected, and I will say here gizmos dot draw wire sphere, and I will say from ground check dot position to, comma to ground check radius. And well, this is just for the visual representation, just to show you, so don't worry about it. Main point is this is grounded function where we used physics.checkSphere. Very handy function, very handy method, by the way. So now if we go back, first of all, let's select our soldier. Let's scroll down and we should assign few things. We should assign ground check. So let's drag ground check right here. And let's add ground layer. And let's select ground. It's also very important to select ground here. Now let's hit play. Let's see what will happen. Okay. Well, we are basically able to jump, but doesn't matter how much I spam my spacebar. I am only able to jump while I'm on the ground, but if I'm in the air, we are not able to jump. That's exactly what we want. Now, if we go in scene view, you see this white, let me select, you see this white sphere. This is our hidden ground check, basically, hidden sensor that indicates our detection with the ground. Of course, when I'm in the game view, we are not able to see it. That's why it's called hidden. And that's exactly what I wanted to show you. And also, by the way, we have one problem. If you noticed, our player is a little bit in the air. And if I go in scene view, we are indeed little bit in the air. You see, here is ground, here is our feet. That happens because of our character controller, and probably we need to take character controller a little bit up. So let's stop playing and let's select soldier, and let's find our character controller, and let's take center of it little bit up, just like this, just a little bit. Now let's try one more time just to see if we are in the ground. Yeah, now we are perfectly in the ground. Well, little bit, we are little bit in the air, so probably we should take our character control center a little bit down, just like this. I think it will be fine. So play around with it and you will get to nice point. I think now we should be fine. Yeah, I think it's fine. So here we go. This is how easily you can fix infinite jumping in Unity.